Hello everybody. In this video we're going to demonstrate various methods for dealing with plugin automation in Protools. There are various techniques, some of which make for smoother, quicker, and more efficient workflows. But it's been my experience that it's difficult to learn anything effective from the manual or from just playing around, so hopefully seeing practical examples will help folks out. Let's begin. I imagine most of you are already familiar with how suspend automation works, but we're going to go through it just to make clear some of the trade-offs between this and other methods. Here's a track with some lanes open so we can see what we're doing. So you enable the automation parameters you want to write to, and hit suspend so you can make changes while looping without having your plugin snap back to its read state. Loop the clip and make changes until you're satisfied, and hit Apple Option / to write to all enabled parameters. Then unsuspend and your automation is now following your changes.
With a few variations, this is, as you know, the history of every great.
Then, if you want to copy automation from one clip to another, you find what you want, hit suspend to keep those parameters locked in, go find and select your target clip, and Option Apple / to write. But as you can see, all this carefully designed automation we have here gets overwritten. And this is the fundamental problem with write to all enabled. It's kind of a blunt tool. To take advantage of more advanced automation, we're going to be using the write commands in the automation window here. These buttons write automation values across selections, across entire tracks, or between breakpoints. They are write to selection start, write to entire selection, and write to selection end. If no selection is defined, these buttons will write automation through the entire session. Below that, we have write to punch and write to next breakpoint. Write to punch will write automation back to the first time a control was touched. It does not write to the previous breakpoint. Below the manual write buttons are the write on stop buttons. These can be engaged before an automation pass is started, or during an ongoing pass, and will not lock down the automation values until the transport is stopped. Preview mode works in kind of the same way as suspend, but gives you the ability to target controls in a more refined way. The central idea is that an automated control will remain in its read state until you isolate it by touching that control. Once isolated, a control will not respond to existing automation, allowing you to tune in the changes you want. Once you touch a control, the track's automation selector turns green. This means a change has been made, but it is not writing the changes you play through. Once you've settled on something you like, you can use one of the manual write buttons to lock down the change. Notice that only isolated controls have their values change. This is the main benefit to working in this way. You don't have to worry about unintentionally overwriting previous automation that you're happy with. If you don't change a control, it doesn't get written to. Once you've hit any automation write buttons, isolated tracks get reset to reading automation again. This is handy, and on larger projects you can go through a whole equalization and compression premix pass without ever leaving preview mode. As a side note, it's easy to get used to using the write to selection button in the middle here, but there's an important failure mode to be aware of. If you don't have a selection defined, it writes across the entire track indiscriminately. It's very easy to have insertion follows playback mistakenly toggled while loop previewing, which leaves you in a selectionless state when you stop.
And it is in the hope that it will provide a basis for much innocent and inexpensive amusement and
Using write to next breakpoint is generally safer. You can temporarily disable preview by Apple-clicking on the preview button, which enables you to compare your new settings against the previously written automation. If you want to take an individual track out of preview, you can Control Apple-click its automation selector. Write disabling a control type will also reset its preview state.
For much innocent and inexpensive.
You may have noticed that as you isolate a control, the capture light starts to glow blue. What this means is that a change to a control has been recognized and can be captured as a snapshot. You can copy this change into the snapshot buffer by clicking the capture button, then punch it by clicking the down arrow, and write it. But this feature isn't that useful. What is useful is if you option click the capture button, it will buffer all write-enabled controls from all write-enabled tracks. This allows you to copy settings easily from place to place without using global suspend. Additionally, Shift Option Capture will pick up controls from selected tracks only, assuming of course they're write-enabled. You can collapse the EQ, compression, and hands-on faders premix workflow into a single pass process using Punch Preview. Set your plugin automation using
With a few
preview mode as we've already learned,
this is,
adding the
as
step
you
of
know,
picking a good
the
starting
history
gain on your
of
main
every
volume.
great shipwreck.
Once you're happy, hit the Punch Preview button to lock down the changes. This will automatically deactivate preview mode, and any tracks in
With a few
preview will switch to
variations,
latch.
This is, as you know, the
Hit play and
history of
premix
every
your
great
clips on the fly.
shipwreck.
As you
And it
encounter
is in the
different
hope
clips
that
that require different plugin settings, you can stop, re-preview, and preview Punch back in.
And it is in the hope that
So
it will
that's it,
provide a
and
basis
hopefully you've all
for
found this
much
helpful.
innocent
Thank
and
you and
inexpensive
goodbye.
amusement and recreation round the and it is in the hope that it will provide and it is in the hope that it will provide a basis for much innocent and inexpensive amusement and recreation round the tea table at home.
The unfortunate men who, in such an The unfortunate men who, in such an extremity, command the vessel, are perfectly excusable in casting into the sea everything that they can make away with.
As well as for a more serious study of an interesting subject, that this little guidebook to the science is confidently offered to